Damu Kiwe Conversation. The only place you gonna get it is the only place you gonna get Big U.
Free Big U. Where's. Welcome to the Damu Kiwe Conversation. Let me get my thing right. I'm just up here high as the mud. Ain't got my thing right. Let me get my thing right. It don't take much though. But welcome to the Damu Kiwe Conversation. We got a great show for y'all, man. Blacks for Reparations, the Iran-Contra scandal, and Reaganomics. Blacks for Reparations, Iran-Contra scandal, Reaganomics. Now, we all know about descendants of slavery and that whole topic and movement, that whole topic and movement that believes because we should our ancestors descended from slavery, that there is a debt that is owed to them because they were utilized as chattel and weren't compensated, and that leaves them at disadvantage in the race in corporate America, home ownership, economic independence, political independence, all of these different things. So with that being said, I believe that they are correct on that. But you always get these people who don't look like us who argue, well, you can't prove your descendants to slavery. Well, I can, right? You know what I'm saying? Documented proof. I'm an old swamp nigga. You know what I mean? I'm the rebellious nigga that's going to have to live in the swamps, because once I seen this happen, I just had to bring justice down in my own hands. Now, don't you go start no uprising in them fields, boy, nigga. Don't you go, that's what they was trying to instill us with. Those who naturally had that sense of justice exuding from their every being, you know what I'm saying? So carbonated, melanated being, you know what I'm saying? Every piece of us demands justice, especially here on earth where we were given dominion by the Most High. We are the people of the Most High. But I also believe that where they say you can't prove the DNA and all of this stuff, that's to spin the old dog chase the tail, because it's going to be open-ended, because some people don't even believe in DNA testing, which I do believe in DNA testing, but I just seen how it was manipulated after the Trail of Tears, after the First and Second Seminole War, when our people moved maroon encampments. The Black Seminoles moved into Indian territory, which today is now known as Oklahoma. See, a lot of us fought front line, you know what I'm saying, was in negotiations and was promised that land in Indian territory, you know what I'm saying? But we were bamboozled by drops of blood in our DNA in their studies, which meant we weren't indigenous or aboriginal to these lands when we are indigenous and aboriginal to the earth. So you get them coming with the dog chasing his tail. I now tend to believe that we have an easier path to reparations and demanding reparations if we gonna start with Big U. If we talk about the Iran-Contra, the war on drugs, the war on our community, they named it a war on drugs anyway, but it wasn't the war on drugs. It was a war on our people, because they marketed, made affordable crack cocaine for our people to either make money off of it, to become users of it, and it's destroyed what was left of the Black family structure in many households. It took a lot of rights away, human rights away from these people who fell victim to Reaganomics. But let's get to this real quick. We talking about reparations and salute and free Big U, man.
Representing communities has reflected a dedication to social good. Big U's influence has extended beyond his entrepreneur ventures to making him a respected figure in the community development space. Let's give him a round of applause as he comes to the stage.
Community development space. Somebody said he was robbing his own community. That don't sound like people who feel they being robbed by him.
Oh, my minutes. A little bit about my story, if you don't already know. Born and raised in South Street, LA. Right down the street on Shaw Street, Arlington. And to the left of me is my community. These are the people who helped to shape what we see Crenshaw is right now today. We're the people when Crenshaw was being knocked, we couldn't go to the school. They were saying our kids didn't have accreditation. These are the people who were up there fighting, getting the kids in class, still to this day. We're the last black enclave in LA. There's more African Americans that live in our community, from the south to San Diego to the north. There's more. And these are the people right here. Can y'all stand up? These are the people who help with our organization. These are the people who continue to send their kids to Crenshaw to graduate. Together we have sent over 300 kids to college. I've been doing development housing now with these men and women for 20 years. We have had development housing for 20 years, not 5, not 10, and we've been dedicated to this area. And we've been dedicated to make it look good enough for people to want to come back and now claim it. And we welcome that. But I just want to say thank you to them. This is not a word just for me. Because when I came home from prison in 2004, it was Monica Sanders who helped me write for the grant. It was my wife Stacy. It was Bear Claw's vision to help us do it. And it was these men. It was Snoop and Wadu who chose to get with the organization. This is why I'm on the back. So it was a lot of people who helped along the way to be able to get to do this. It was my brother Alan Long who kicked me out of his organization to let me go get my own. But I'm saying that to say that the work that we do tirelessly every day, with no sleep, trying to figure out how we gonna get it, how we to help kids. When these kids are stressed out and they don't have no.
Robbing Peter to pay Paul to help those kids. That's what one of the charges they really got Big U on, and people claim he stole from the community. Y'all, if y'all could walk a mile in his shoes and have that much understanding, but the government, well, we'll get to that.
Go to sleep, and mothers and fathers don't have to sleep in their cars, and we have to go get them. And when people don't understand how we have to coach kids who don't have food, and then we have to coach and teach against other organizations, other schools, Jesuits, to get the kids and offer more things than we do. This is stuff that we have to do. I have to rob Peter to pay Paul every time because we're really actually helping kids. And then we lose sleep because if somebody don't have nowhere to sleep, they gotta go rob, and then we gotta fight against that. So I'm just saying that thank you to our family and to the people who continue to help us, and the people who want to help us. You can reach right out to Bear Claw, Nicole, my wife, and we welcome the help because we actually service 400 to 500 kids a year.
Earning cash back on purchases made with your credit card is great.
That's one man. 400 to 500, they did it 20 years, 2,500, 20 times. So about 10,000 kids at that rate. That man had influence on helping, fathering, showing a strong black father figure to these children. And what have you done for those children? those judging Big U, what have you done for those children? What are you doing for those children? But Big U had received an award for coming up with the reparations, pushing reparations in California. So we're going to get to this article, and then we're going to talk about how reparation relates to Danilo Blandón and Norwin Meneses. It's about time. California creates reparations agency for descendants of enslaved people. Let's get to it. Senate Bill 518, authored by State Senator Akila Weber Pearson, creates the Bureau for Descendants of American Slavery, which will verify Black Californians' eligibility. New legislation authored by a San Diego lawmaker and just signed by Governor Gavin Newsom creates an agency that will take key first steps towards reparations for Black Californians whose ancestors were enslaved, and toward what advocates say is repairing the lasting harms of American slavery. Senate Bill 518, authored by State Senator Akila Weber Pearson, creates the Bureau for Descendants of American Slavery, which will oversee the process of reparations, including verifying Californians' eligibility and coordinating future reparative justice initiatives. Reparations can include compensation and other resources for the descendants of enslaved people in an effort to offset the disadvantages Black Americans have faced as a result of slavery and systemic racism, including discrimination in housing, education, and the criminal justice system. Y'all see that criminal justice system? Us not being working and not being able to get an education, it being against the law for us to learn to read. You know what I'm saying? This is a monumental success, and then we couldn't even get patents or copyrights. This is a monumental success that we have done here in California. Weber Pearson said, it's something that those who are descendants of American chattel slavery have been fighting for since the Emancipation Proclamation. Hey, listen, man, I agree. Local historians and genealogists Yvette Porter Moore summed it up saying, it's about time. Newsom signed another bill this week, also proposed by Weber Pearson, that allocates $6 million to the California State University system to research how to confirm a person's genealogical history to verify if they are descendants of enslaved people and confirm eligibility for reparations. But the governor's approval of the two bills came just as he vetoed 5 other reparative justice bills on Monday, including one that would have given descendants of enslaved people preference in college admissions, and another that would have set aside money for the first time home buyers who are descended from enslaved people. Oh, I think that's the most important. The land and what land we get. We need to have livable land. We don't want to be bothered. We can all get it close to some water. That's all we need. Some of that California sunshine and water. We'll figure out the rest. They can keep the money if they give us those acres. We can figure the rest out and leave us alone. The sovereignty. Weber Pearson said she doesn't see the veto legislation as a door shut, but instead as items that can be explored again at a future legislative session. I did not expect for all of our bills to get through, she said. If that had happened, that would have been amazing as well. But that is just not how the legislative process usually works. And this is why we want to be left alone. After legislative system, it has not worked in our favor, especially for that to just be popping up. So while it is good that they do have legislation, we need to make preparations and for us to find economic independence in other ways. Like, we're not and can never just depend on this government for anything. We need to be self-sufficient. And the reason is because we've been under attack. We've been under attack by the United States government, the CIA. Hold on, let me see something real quick.
$1.5 billion.
That's correct.
What did you do with that money?
We made so much money, we had to keep an apartment just to keep the cash. It was floor to the ceiling dollars. We had to rotate the money from the top to the bottom so prevent mold from coming on the money from the humidity.
What does this say?
This is supposed to be Danilo Blandón.
Mr. Blandón, were you working with a partner at that time?
Yes.
Oscar
Norwin Meneses.
Danilo Blandón.
Norwin Meneses.
Excuse me.
That's correct.
Wait a second. What
Norwin
exactly is happening here,
Meneses.
Your Honor? Clearly, this reporter is giving direction to counsel.
Approach.
Thank you.
Your Honor,
This man in the first row is a reporter, and he's giving questions to counsel.
if he is, and I'm not saying that he is.
Well, he is.
Okay, he is, but there's nothing in the rules that says he can't.
I don't like it, but I'm not going to stop it for now.
Then I am compelled to warn the court that this door leads to very sensitive national security matters.
Then maybe you shouldn't have opened it.
Mr. Blandón, is it true that you and Norwin Meneses were in communication with the federal government together? Can you tell us who in the federal government you were in communication with? Who were you working with? The FBI?
Mr. Dodson can't answer that question for you, Mr. Blandón. Remember, you're under oath.
The DEA.
No. It was the CIA.
The Central Intelligence Agency.
Yes.
So, Mr. Blandón, what did the CIA have you do?
Objection, relevance, Your Honor.
Overruled. Mr. Blandón, answer the question.
We were asked to support a free and democratic Nicaragua, the Contras, the rebels, by sending planes into Nicaragua and raising money here in the U.S. for the war.
Mr. Blandón, did the CIA specifically know that you were selling cocaine to buy guns and supplies to support its cause?
Objection! This line of questioning has absolutely no relevance.
Overruled.
They knew who we were.
They knew who we were. I know y'all like, that'll be a blockbuster hit. No. That was the conspiracy that was formulated against and to destroy the Black family household in America and fund the overthrow of the Sandinista government in Nicaragua. True story. That's Danilo Blandón. Him and his partner, Norwin Meneses, or Norwin Meneses, however you pronounce his name. But when you do say their name, just make sure y'all know the law ain't too far behind. These were Nicaraguan drug smugglers, the top of the pyramid, for the CIA. We're not talking about the FBI, the DEA, all of the ones that probably target me. We're talking the international plan, international interests, the CIA. So that person that was on the stand being questioned was the plug for Freeway Ricky Ross. Let's get to this real quick. Oscar Danilo Blandón. So I'm gonna take y'all to Wiki, tell y'all a little bit more about Danilo Blandón. Okay, y'all can see it. Let's go. Oscar Danilo Blandón Reyes, born July 29, 1951, is a Nicaraguan-born drug trafficker who is best known as one of the main subjects of the 1996 newspaper series Dark Alliance by reporter Gary Webb. Rest in peace to Gary Webb. Blandón was originally a director of agricultural markets in Nicaragua during the government of Anastasio Somoza. When the Somoza regime was overthrown in 1979, Blandón fled to the United States and then raised money for the Nicaraguan Democratic Force, a Contra group. As part of the fundraising activities, Blandón began selling cocaine. Eventually, Blandón became a major cocaine trafficker in the Los Angeles area. In May 1992, Blandón was arrested in San Diego on federal charge of conspiracy to possess cocaine with intent to distribute. In prison awaiting trial, Blandón began cooperating with the DEA in a number of drug cases. In a plea agreement, Blandón agreed to continue cooperating with the government in exchange for a substantial sentence reduction. Eventually, Blandón was sentenced to 48 months. In order to facilitate Blandón's work as an informant, the government further requested a reduction in Blandón's sentence to time served. Following his imprisonment, Blandón worked for the DEA as a confidential informant. He worked for the DEA to take down drug kingpin Rick Ross in a sting operation, for which Ross was convicted in 1997. In the 2014 film Kill the Messenger, Blandón was portrayed by actor Yul Vasquez. So that's a little bit about the plug. So they want you to believe he was just working for the DEA. But we heard him admit that he was working on the stand, that he was working for the CIA. So they disguise him as a DEA informant so that you don't know that their grand plan, international plan, included what they did to not overthrow the Sandinista government in Nicaragua, but in South Central Los Angeles, my hometown. So we're going to get to this one real quick, man. We got a nice show for y'all. Y'all can learn the story. The Iran-Contra scandal. And then maybe y'all can understand why I think this is a sure end to get reparations. Let's go.
They don't have no regard or respect for reps, and I think they all should be exterminated. What is American gangster about? Them American reps? Rayful and Alpo and Nicky Barnes and Shirley Book, man, them reps.
Blandón was always a very nice man. He was actually very soft-spoken. He wasn't very He wasn't about a lot of bling. He was very intelligent. He was formally educated. I was 13, and on the weekends, I would go and count money for my uncle. I asked him, well, what's this all for? And he kind of filled me in on that their families were very prominent in the government in Nicaragua. And when the Sandinistas came in, they were ousted.
There was a Contra-revolution, which was sponsored by the United States. Reagan was in power, and Reagan was anti-communist.
They are counter-revolutionary, and God bless them for being that way. And I guess that makes them Contras, and so it makes me a Contra, too.
They had to support themselves. And how did they support themselves? Drugs into the U.S.
They basically were supporting the Contras and not trafficking in drugs because that was a cool thing to do or because that was their childhood dream, but because they were patriots. They wanted their country back, and for no other reason. However,
so because they wanted their country back, will sacrifice the niggas. Let's flood their communities with cocaine, because remember, this is on the heels. 79 is on the heels of the Vietnam War. So the vibe of the country was no more war. So many people were unalive. So many soldiers were coming back unalive. So many were coming back shot up. And then with drug habits, heroin habits, you know what I'm saying? Opioid habits, that Congress wouldn't even knew that they couldn't justify giving funds for another war. So they came with a black market plan to target market the black community with affordable cocaine where people could get high for $5, $10, $20. And if they flooded Los Angeles and they flooded the Los Angeles gang population, they talking about for Nicaragua, this is what they offer. Let's go.
however, later on in the picture, you teach a man to fish, and he just might practice his trade.
Today, federal agents seized over 400 pounds of coke. Agents say it's the largest haul ever seized on the West Coast.
The FBI came in, we got busted. It just came and figured to my mind I had $65,000 next to my night tables. The money actually was to Contras. So I was called back to the federal building, and they say, well, we are going to give you your money back. I think the government didn't want to actually deal with it.
They control the lake. They pay cash, right? They pay cash.
He said he's getting into the black thing down in L.A., and the guy up in San Francisco said, what are you talking about?
Gary
said,
Webb, this is the journalist.
He said, you go into these neighborhoods, there's no cops, you can sell it where you want.
Good man.
And when they start killing each other, nobody cares.
Rest in peace.
And that was his method for success. That and the fact that he met this kid, Freeway Ricky Ross, who lived in South Central, who knew the neighborhood, who knew the gangs, and knew the distribution system. You know, that's why it happened that way.
They gave him permanent legal residence status in the U.S.
Danilo Blandón, who was a person who was a member of the aristocracy of Nicaragua before the fall of Somoza, and then he fled and comes to the United States and decides, while he's in the United States, so you can all understand this, he wants to raise money for the revolutionaries who are trying to overthrow the government that just overthrew them. So here in the United States, they try to do fundraisers, and that doesn't work. And then Blandón gets a scheme, well, I can get some cocaine cheaply with some help from some of my friends and get it into the United States of America. All I need to find is somebody who can sell it. So they find a gentleman by the name of Rick Ross, who is Freeway Rick. Rick Ross comes in and starts selling cocaine at the terms beginning 1 or 2 grams. And within weeks, 2, 3, 4 kilos a week. Within months, what was it, 10 to 15 kilos a day. Ricky Ross was selling cocaine to the point of making $3 to $4 million a day. He sold so much cocaine, it hurt his fingers to count the money. Not only in Los Angeles, but in Cincinnati, in St. Louis, all the way across America. So some say,
Norwin
and this is the reason why people are so angry at you and your article,
Danilo
is that
Blandón.
Ricky Ross, the dope dealer, was supplied by the CIA because Blandón was an operative for the CIA.
I don't like
Blandón was a CIA operative with the keys to bring the dope into America, even on military planes. The Bushes headed the CIA. I think he was the director of the CIA when Reagan first come up with the Reaganomics. Oliver North. I don't like niggers. They pay cash though, right? You see this? I don't like niggers. They pay cash though, right? This is how they think about us.
They pay cash, right? They pay cash.
Came and they got me. They said, "Come on, let's go for a ride." So we go for a ride. We're just talking. He's telling me about how better it's going to be. You know, it's going to be good business, and I heard all about you. I heard you guys are good people, and you're not going to do nothing wrong. And I can take care of everything. I can make it happen. I can get the price. I can get as much as you want, and we're going to have a good relationship.
I knew he was the man, because, you know, like when we first would do the deal, we would do a deal, and then he would be parked, you know, down the streets. We would be on the other side of the street, and, you know, he would, you know, give us the wave. Hey, buddy, you know, like that there. Everything's good. Danilo took me to an apartment, and he said, well, this is what we're going to be doing in business at, you know, and told me all the prices and everything. Well, the price went down. I think the price went down substantially that day, you know. Maybe increased me like where I could make another 20, 30,000 a day. I could get the drugs from Danilo Blandón in 45 minutes, it's all gone. I was going through like $1 million worth of drugs just about every day. He was a teacher, you know, in a lot of respects. He was a father figure in some respects. We looked at it as almost family. And I didn't even understand what a Contra was, you know what I'm saying? I didn't even know what Nicaragua was. Nor did I care. You know, the only thing that I cared about was, you know, have my drugs on time, price gonna be right.
We had heard that Freeway Rick was getting his dope from a very main or big operator, a guy named Danilo Blandón. This guy is delivering to South Central, and he had 13 locations. 13 locations at one time is a very big deal. So it was a big operation. We get to the house, Ron Lester's house, and we knock on the door, and he says, yeah, I know who you are. I work for the CIA, and you're not supposed to be here. I said, well, can we talk inside? We're searching through it, and we're finding all this military information, you know, laws, rocket launchers, different weapons. I grabbed as much as I could as far as information. It looked important, so I took it. There was no drugs in the house. There was no reason to take them. Everybody shows up empty-handed. The same story from everybody else is that we got burned. Somebody burned us.
Hold on, let me back that up.
The only place where there was dope
y'all can hear that.
was shows up empty-handed. I grabbed as much as I could as far as information. It looked important, so I took it. There was no drugs in the house. There was no reason to take them. When we all got back to the station, everybody's waiting for the crew that's going to come in and say, hey, we got 100 kilos. Everybody shows up empty-handed. The same story from everybody else is that we got burned. Somebody burned us. The only place where there was dope was at Danilo Blandón's house, and it was a gram of coke. They arrested Danilo. The following day, one of the guys in the office said, hey, the feds were down here yesterday and took everything that you seized at the house. I said, well, you know what? I think we're into something that's bigger than us, something we really can't deal with.
Threatened to undermine the Reagan presidency. It was revealed that administration officials sold arms to Iran, diversified some of the funds to the Contras.
This nation cannot abide the communization of Central America. We cannot have Soviet bases on the mainland of this hemisphere. And I still, to this day, Council, don't see anything wrong with taking the Ayatollah's money and sending it to support the Nicaraguan freedom fighters.
As long as there is breath in this body, I will speak and work, strive and struggle for the cause of the Nicaraguan freedom fighters.
Danilo was let go.
Right.
His name is Ricky Ross, the most elusive of the new gang godfathers, a mystery man. He's wanted in a handful of
They
states across
villainize
this
the
nation
black
for
man.
dealing massive amounts of
Make
cocaine,
him the
but he's been
face of
forced
it.
to run his organization while on the lam.
Criminalize being black as being suspects through art, through the news, the crooked news media. Okay, let me read that to y'all. Hold on. Because some of y'all might can't read. In 1988 and 1989, drug trafficking charges were brought against Ross in Texas, Ohio, and California. In November of 1989, he was captured in Los Angeles by police. He pled guilty to drug trafficking and received a 10-year sentence, which was shortened 4 years by his agreeing to cooperate with the U.S. Department of Justice to find corrupt police officers in the task force. He agreed to cooperate with the DOJ against police. People say he's a rat. He was in USP Line Pot. When it was USP Line Pot, he's not a rat. Fuck them
Blandón
police.
really called him. I was in the call when Blandón called him. They talked, and he was like, I'm home. I came home. And he asked Rick, I want to see you. I have some stuff want to talk about. Rick accepted him. He came down there and talked. Like, man, and told Rick that he was in some financial trouble. Like, this is how you get Rick the hooked on the stuff. Like, I'm some financial trouble. I need some help. And, I got these, I got some work. And Rick like, no, I ain't messing with no work. But he convinced him. And he convinced me in a way, because I was there. And Rick was like, I ain't got no money, but my partner probably want to do something. That's how this happened. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm done with that shit. Then he told Rick, like, man, you like my son. He said that. I'm listening to him. He said, you like my son. Just this one time, Rick, I let you get, if you come out there, if you come to Mexico, I give them to you for 7. Like 7 a burn. But if I cross, you got to give me 10. And like 10, like 7, no, I'm not going to Mexico to get this shit. 100 kilos of 10,000 a key, $1 million. So I ended up putting that money in there, and we went to go see him. So we finally see them in Blandón. I'm seeing him and the dude pulling up, like in a Camaro or something. I said, Rick, there they go right there. But I'm seeing this dude, like fake, like he's sleeping next to us too. Like, all right. I'm looking around and I'm like, damn. So the dude, when Blandón walked up to us and the other guy, the DEA, they stood away and they said, you got the money? He's asking Rick. And now this time I'm thinking like, nah, I ain't giving up the money before I see this shit. I'm like, nah. And then they said, no, it's parked around the corner. I'm arguing with Rick, like, Rick, man, you sure, man, this some shit this don't seem right. So I'm like, you sure? Like, nah, Chicky, like, like my father, he's cool. And then Blandón came back to the car. And so the other guy that was our driver, I said, go check in and make sure it's in there. So Rick and him went to go see what's in there. So Rick waved his hand to me like, yeah, it's in there. They're in there, 100 key. So I gave him the money. I gave Blandón the money. Bam. As soon as I gave him the money, That's when I seen like jackets and shit, DEA, FBI, helicopters coming off the roof. The truck that had the work in it has a cutoff switch so it never rolled. By this time, Rick had got back in the other truck, so Rick taking off. So when Rick moving, I'm going this way, and I see them jackets, and then all you can hear is freeze, and I see Rick take off, going towards the freeway, and see hit the tree. I'm about to go through the mall, but it was like, man, about 50 red beams to my head, like, shut up, get out the truck, DEA. Like, oh, shit. Like, so by this time, I'm arrested, but I see Blandón. I'm looking at him, giving him high five. I'm like, oh, this is fucked up. Like, he giving the DEA and all them high five. Like, oh, this is what it is. It's cold setup. Like, that's exactly how this shit happened.
The CIA plug line you up.
You guys wrote a declaration to my judge saying it wasn't no involvement. How could you say there's no involvement if an investigation ain't over? Me and Ricky Ross was waiting to get sentenced Tuesday. And she what a judge gonna say to us come Tuesday?
The question which was asked of us by the judge was Ricky Ross ever an agent or a contract employee?
I was in court. I'd be in court every time there's a ruling and everything because I'm part of it. And the judge asked the prosecutor to get a written statement from you saying there wasn't no involvement. You guys wrote a letter saying there's no involvement. Then you come up here and say, it's still going on. So come Tuesday, the judge gonna tell me, oh, it was no involvement. You get 20 years, Rick get life.
I want to be very clear. The judge asked for an affidavit from the Central Intelligence Agency whether any one of the 5 individuals by name
was the CIA director.
had
My
ever had
bad.
any association with the Central Intelligence Agency. Please let me finish. First of all, we answered that question. It's a public available answer. The record of that affidavit is available. Anybody wants to see it. And we found that none of the 5 named individuals had ever had any association with the Central Intelligence Agency.
On that declaration, it said Norwin Meneses was, and you guys knew that he was involved 20 years ago. And the declaration said he was a Nicaraguan mafia. And you guys knew he was selling drugs, but you didn't arrest him. You guys arrested him for 1 kilo and then gonna say me and Rick had 100 kilos and didn't even have no cocaine. And he get 5 years. Rick looking at life. My first offense, I'm looking at 20, and he's on his way out. And Blandón is out of jail, and you paid him $166,000.
Got it.
The question that the judge put to the CIA was whether Blandón or any one of 4 other individuals were ever associated with the CIA. That question was answered. The answer is a matter of public record. It is absolutely the case that Blandón was an informant for the DEA. That is a question, though, which the DEA is answering, not a question which asks the CIA.
Whatever we were running in LA, he goes.
They try to disguise him as just a DEA.
United States sentencing guidelines and the federal sentencing system rewards those who get others involved in criminal conduct. And that's what Blandón did.
A friend came to me, was in need, and I broke weak. That's all I did, and I was duped. The race ain't over yet.
Well, does the black community need a hero who's doing life in a maximum security penitentiary?
The government can't stop him. He has to come from
Yeah, he was at Lime Pop, USP Lime Pop. Let's stop this real quick. Gotta take this call. Maria.
Out of here anytime soon. All these big pie in the sky.
It's America. We can dream. That's one thing they didn't take from you. They didn't say you can't dream no more. The prosecutor says that if Danilo Blandón wanted to make a deal, he was going to have to bring the moon.
What was he caught with?
10,000 kilos. Yeah, I think he got out
10,000 kilos.
4 or 5 days after me. Well, the only person whose name on the letter that they took to the judge was my name.
We felt they misled the judge in the letter. The letter went something like, we want to let Mr. Blandón out so he can reestablish his relationship with Mr. Ross, who is a large crack cocaine dealer in the Los Angeles area.
In tonight's Eye on America, accusations, underscore the word accusations, that are nothing short of explosive. They are that the CIA knowingly and intentionally did what amount to pump crack cocaine into Los Angeles to help fund rebels in Nicaragua.
To make somebody pay for what they have done to my community and to my people.
There were some strong emotions vented today in Los Angeles as anger increases over a disturbing allegation that in the 1980s, the CIA knowingly permitted black neighborhoods to be flooded with crack cocaine.
I mean, the way we was getting the drugs in, this guy had to have some powerful people behind him.
It doesn't make any difference whether they delivered the kilo themselves or they turned their heads while somebody else delivered it. They're just as guilty.
Series of articles by journalists Gary Webb and the San Jose Mercury.
They were very good friends for a number of years. And Rick was telling me about how when Blandón moved to Miami, he would go to Miami and see him, and he'd bring his daughter's rap records from LA, and he'd drive his kids to school, and he'd have dinner at the house.
I mean, I went to his house and ate. You know, I stayed at his house before, you know, several times.
Blandón and Meneses were working for an army that was a wholly owned subsidiary of the CIA. They were meeting with CIA agents. Blandón, and this came out in court. I mean, Danilo Blandón is now a government witness. He works for the Drug Enforcement Administration. And we've paid him, I don't know, $166,000 over the last 18 months because he's such a good informant. So they put him on the witness stand in Ricky Ross's case. And he testified that in 1981, he went to Honduras. He met with the commander, the military commander of the CIA's army, and he was instructed to go raise money in California for this Contra army. And he was told that the ends justified the means.
And those ends being sell cocaine.
Well, look, he was in the room with the Nicaraguan representative of the Cali Cartel, Mr. Meneses. And he was in the room with a government marketing expert named
Cali
Danilo
Cartel.
Blandón. Now, if they weren't talking about selling cocaine, I don't know what they were talking about.
Danilo Blandón and the Cali Cartel. Nasty work. I mean, Norwin Meneses, Nemesis, however you pronounce his name. Cali Cartel, him and Danilo Blandón are the plug. Let's go.
Here's a guy who is...
They are CIA operatives.
Blandón, who is working with this government-backed army that we've kind of created in Nicaragua. But how the heck does this guy get to bring in tons of cocaine? When I say ton, I'm talking tons. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 tons of cocaine weekly in the United States of America for 7 years, and no one can ever catch him.
Well, number one, Mr. Meneses was actually indicted in 1984. He was known within, my own sources in DEA told me he was known as El Rey de la Droga, the king of drugs. He was in more than 40 files and indicted mysteriously, and people within DEA say that it was CIA intervention that kept this sealed indictment from ever being opened. So he was well known. He was well known. The connection between him, Blandón, and Calero, who was the head of the Nicaraguan government in exile, is clear. There's a clear evidentiary.
We got a picture of him.
Yeah, there's a clear evidentiary trail.
American Rats. Shout out to Ambassador's Content, man. Go over there, hit a like, tell them that I sent y'all. Hey, man, American Rats. This is what been going on. And now we are just being. So that's a little bit about Norwin Meneses, their relation as CIA operatives. Norwin Meneses and Danilo Blandón, and then Danilo Blandón tries to hide under the cover, under the guise as just a DEA agent. This is nasty work, bro. So let's go to this real quick. I'm saying to get into that. You see what I'm saying? There was congressional hearings and all of that with Oliver North and all of that. But let's learn a little bit more about Gary Webb, because Gary Webb, rest in peace, is the journalist who exposed the CIA.
In the summer of 1996, a California newspaper published a story that made the U.S. government nervous. It made the CIA deny everything. It made the black community furious. And it made one reporter a household name. The story was called Dark Alliance. And the man who wrote it was Gary Webb. To understand how we got here, you have to understand who Gary Webb was. He wasn't a crusader. He wasn't a conspiracy theorist. He was an investigative journalist, plain and simple. By the mid-90s, he was on the investigative desk, chasing drug cases and digging through court records. And that's when he found something strange, buried in the transcripts of a major cocaine bust in San Francisco. A name kept coming up. Danilo Blandón, a Nicaraguan, well-dressed, smooth talker, huge shipments of cocaine. And when questioned under oath, Blandón said something chilling.
Cualquier cosa que giramos en Los Ángeles, las ganancias iban a la revolución de la Contra.
Blandón wasn't just connected to cocaine. He was connected to the Contras, a US-backed rebel army fighting against Nicaragua's leftist government during the Cold War. The CIA had secretly funneled millions of dollars to support the Contras during the 1980s, even after Congress banned funding. So the question was obvious. If the CIA needed money and Blandón had cocaine, was the US government quietly allowing drug money to fund a war? In the summer of 1996, a California newspaper...
That's exactly what happened. Not is that what happened, that's what happened. So Danilo Blandón, we're going to get more into Gary Webb. Rest in peace. He feared for his life, and they said that he unalived himself, I believe, when he was supposed to been jogging. I don't buy that shit. But this is what they do, man. And I don't think I'm bigger than the program. I'm quite sure, you know what I'm saying, that they're going to get it. Let's get back into some more Gary Webb, man, in his own words. Let's go, man.
Investigative reporting is being sort of squeezed out of the picture, and I think intentionally.
I agree.
Because it tends to ruffle feathers. I mean, good investigative reporting does ruffle feathers.
That's one reason I got a lawsuit on me right now.
And it gets newspapers. Investigative journalist. I've been an investigative journalist for about 25 years for daily newspapers. And in 1996...
That it was absolutely true. And it was even worse than we had believed. That's because it went all the way from the top of the United States of America Incorporated, the U.S. government, Reagan, Bush, the CIA, the military, and the Contras. Let's get to it. Gary Webb, man. Rest in peace to Gary Webb. You know what I'm saying? They definitely was going to get rid of him. And then let's get to this one, and then we'll be done after that. It's foul how they could, let me tell you how they get paid. 3 ways, right? They do everything in 3s, right? So first, the government wants to sell guns. They want to make money first, and they want to sell these guns, right? It's big business for corporations, right? Corporations that the ruling elite owns, right? So think about it like this. The companies make money selling guns to the Contras. The cocaine that's getting sold, those companies that are selling the guns to the Contras and supplying them intelligence, the federal government, right? The U.S. military, right? Or they're feeding them intelligence, they're feeding them money, all on the back of the Black family structure. But it gets even deeper, right? Not only do our parents struggle with this new addictive drug that they had to know the addictive characteristics. Cocaine had already been addictive since indigenous and native people in Peru chewed on it like a regular person would chew on a toothpick. Getting the juices, it was an addicting quality. So they go into the studies and the pleasure sensories in your brain, and they put it on steroids and turn it into crack. A much more affordable way to market it to the community. And for those coming from the communities lacking without resources. All of the factories that were in Los Angeles that our grandparents worked at, engineers. This is an opportunity to make some money. So now the government say, well, shit, we can make some money up off of locking their ass up too. Let's say we're starting the war on drugs. Nancy Reagan and Ronald Reagan declared a war on drugs publicly. They paint the most horrific pictures in inner city communities across the United States. They made the main character in drug dealing and crack dealing, this new drug, the Black man in Black communities are selling these drugs. We have to stop a whole campaign. Dare to keep kids off drugs. Police getting the bigger budgets. Taxpayers' dollars being raised. They're extorting the taxpayers out of the dollars to fund the mass incarceration of melanated, carbonated beings in the United States of America, Incorporated. Disproportionately packed the penitentiaries with 100-to-1 ratio, cocaine to crack cocaine. 58 grams of crack, 10-year mandatory minimum. You get caught with 100 of those in powder, you get 5 years or less. There's no mandatory minimum. So go into the psychological implications that took. Some of our parents didn't have no other ways of taking care of their family, and they jumped in the game. They were taken out the game, or they were addicted. Splintering the family structure in millions of homes while extorting them under the guise, we need to protect you from these drug addicts and drug dealers. They're violent. They're gang members. And then their buddies that invest in Geo. Their buddies that invest in private prisons, halfway houses. They all have an interest in it. When we finish this, I'm going to give y'all my reason why I believe that this is the quickest way to reparations. Iran-Contra.
Now the second CIA story, which is about a most unusual trip, said the CIA director made to the West Coast on Friday. It was to respond to charges concerning the crack cocaine epidemic of the 1980s. Jeffrey Kay of KCET Los Angeles reports.
Please join me in welcoming Mr. John George.
CIA Director John Deutsch faced a largely hostile audience Friday afternoon at a community forum in South Central Los Angeles.
Thank you, Congresswoman Millender McDonald, for holding this public meeting, for giving me the opportunity to talk with members of this community about charges that the CIA introduced crack cocaine into South Central Los Angeles in the mid-1980s. It is an appalling charge. It is an appalling charge.
South Central Los Angeles in the 1980s. Damn, let's go.
Charge that goes to the heart of this country. It is a charge that cannot go unanswered.
Deutsch pledged a thorough investigation. His extraordinary public relations mission to Watts came in response to a public outcry over a report by a California paper, the San Jose Mercury News. The three-part series, Dark Alliance, appeared in August on the internet as well as in print. Although the articles drew criticism by several major newspapers, they raised a firestorm of outrage and prompted official inquiries. The newspaper asserted that members of the CIA's army in Nicaragua helped spark a crack cocaine explosion in urban America in the 1980s. The report said two Nicaraguans, Danilo Blandón and Norwin Meneses, sold tons of cocaine to Los Angeles drug dealer Ricky Ross. The article said Blandón and Meneses funneled millions of dollars in profits to CIA-backed rebels fighting the leftist Sandinista government in Nicaragua. The articles showed no direct link to the CIA, but did include a photograph of Meneses on the right with Adolfo Calero in the center, a leader in the CIA-funded rebel army known as the Contras.
Much of the information in the articles is not new. Allegations of Contra drug connections have been the subject of congressional probes, news stories, and books. What is new is the link the article suggests between the wholesalers and the retailers, between men said to be associated with the CIA-backed Contras and sales of crack cocaine on the streets. The series was written by reporter Gary Webb.
Did the CIA put drugs into the black community?
We don't have any evidence so far that they did it directly. And what we have evidence of is that men working for a CIA-run army did do that.
With the knowledge of the CIA?
That's the part we don't know. That's the part we don't know. I mean, what we know is that these guys were working for a CIA army. They were meeting with CIA agents before and during the time they were doing this. What happens from there is sort of where we ran into the wall of national security.
On Friday, CIA Director Deutsch did not directly address the broad question of whether the CIA knew about drug dealing. Instead, he cautiously denied a conspiracy.
As of today, we have no evidence of a conspiracy by the CIA to engage in encouraging drug traffickers in Nicaragua or elsewhere in Latin America during this or any other period. However, I am going to wait and see what the results are of this Inspector General's investigation.
Even without hard evidence connecting the CIA with drug dealing, many have accepted that conclusion. A standing room-only crowd of about 1,500 attended a forum on the subject in September. LA Congresswoman Maxine Waters was one of the organizers.
Now, there are people who will say, well, Ms. Waters, maybe the CIA wasn't directly involved. Maybe it was just the people from Nicaragua and other places who were kind of CIA connected. Maybe they just turned their heads. Maybe they just kind of blinked and said, well, it doesn't make any difference. Whether they delivered the kilo themselves or they turned their heads while somebody else delivered it, they're just as guilty.
Waters has made this issue a priority.
We are going to pass out the San Jose Mercury News articles.
In the hands of activists, reprints of the series have become political pamphlets. They see the articles as confirmation of a long-suspected conspiracy.
We're here today to put a face on our outrage and our disappointment in what we know is a government ploy and a setup to decimate our communities.
The palpable anger has its roots in the spread of a drug many compare to a plague. Crack cocaine hit hard in the inner city starting in the early 80s. The drug is relatively cheap and highly addictive. It spread quickly. The crack business was lucrative for high-powered dealers like Ricky Ross, the man cited in the series. Ross, now in federal prison in San Diego, became an overnight millionaire.
At our heyday, as much as maybe $1 million a day, $2 million a day sometimes, maybe more, you know, a few days. This wasn't every day, though. Right. It was like, we had days that...
That's how much you were taking in?
Right, in one day.
Ross says he complained to his supplier, Danilo Blandón, that he had difficulty counting all the money.
So eventually he bought us a money machine, you know, and he brought it over to us. And it eased the pain, you know, a lot. But eventually it even got too much for one money machine. We wound up getting 3 money machines to count it. Because one money machine would just be running, and then we'd have money stacked. And we had people that all they would do all day was count money, eventually.
Full-time money counters.
Yeah.
Even though Ross is a central figure in this story, he can shed little light on the people he dealt with.
Blandón, then. What did you know about him? Did you know his name?
No, just Danilo.
Danilo.
And we used to call him Nika.
You don't even know his last name?
No.
Did he ever talk about the government, the U.S. government?
No, never.
DEA, CIA?
No,
nothing.
Never.
While Ross made easy money, Dr. Exelina Bean was coping with cocaine's tragic consequences. At the neonatology ward at Martin Luther King Hospital in L.A., she saw 60 babies a month born with cocaine in their systems. Today, Bean's anger embodies a common view that the black community has been victimized.
Every child, every baby, every child of a substance abusing mother and a substance...
This right here is the legal basis to file in the body of this planet's countries to hold the United States of America, Inc. financially liable for this. I could prove that my dad was smoking crack. He has a criminal history of it. They found it in his blood. You know what I'm saying? I have proof that the police planted drugs on me or time off of my life was spent in jail, in the LA County jail, after police planted crack cocaine on me. And there's millions of you guys out there. The government, through negligence or intent, specifically targeted our community with these drugs to fund their war and to extort U.S. citizens out of higher tax payments. And this was the result. Children born with it, addicted to it. This right here, the trauma of this situation, Iran-Contra scandal. I believe this is the way that we get our reparations, even quicker than from slavery. Hope y'all spread the word, but let's finish listening to this.
Abusing families should be considered a victim of violence and be entitled to reparations.
Speak on it.
Waters says the strong reaction.
And be entitled to reparations. Listen to what I'm telling y'all. If I ain't never used my voice for nothing good, man, I'm using my voice for something good on this. I believe this with all of my being. Y'all need to start this conversation against the United States of America, Inc. Let's go.
Allegations of government involvement in the crack trade is not surprising. That's because the drug has touched so many lives.
One thing that's very striking when you're out there, people would get up and they'll start crying. I have women who have gotten up and told stories about they haven't seen their daughter for years. Their daughter's on crack. They have the babies. Every audience that I go into, there's always a sizable number of people who've had it in their families. Sons, daughters, nieces, nephews, cousins. So this scourge has touched a lot of people, and there's a lot of pain out there. I mean, just a lot of pain.
Pressure from Waters and other elected officials has led to congressional and agency investigations.
The hearing of the Senate Intelligence Committee will proceed.
At a recent Senate committee meeting, inspectors general from the CIA and Justice Department promised thorough reviews. The committee also heard from a former Senate investigator, Jack Blum, who in the late 80s looked into drug trafficking by the Contras.
The answer you get to the questions you ask depends totally on how you frame the question. If you ask the question, did the CIA sell drugs in the black neighborhoods of Los Angeles to finance the Contra war, the answer will be a categorical no. Now, having said that, we have to go back to what is true. And what is true is the policymakers absolutely closed their eyes to the criminal behavior of our allies and supporters in that war. The policymakers ignored their drug dealing, their stealing, and their human rights violations.
But while Blum lent credence to some of the allegations raised by the Mercury News, major newspapers have criticized the series. The LA Times, Washington Post, and New York Times have all run articles saying the Mercury News overstated the facts. Leo Walensky is Metropolitan Editor of the LA Times.
Well, the main weakness was the basic allegation that the Contras had made millions from dealing drugs on the streets of Los Angeles, working through a Northern California drug dealer.
Walensky's reporters said the Nicaraguans sent no more than $50,000 to the Contras.
Also indicated that this drug ring was responsible for beginning the crack epidemic in Los Angeles and spreading it like Johnny Appleseed across the country. Found out those facts were untrue also, that crack started in various parts of the country simultaneously, and that crack was already in Los Angeles far before this story ever took place. The other thing that was questionable was the ties to the CIA, which they never said specifically that the CIA was dealing drugs, but there are a lot of implications throughout the article.
Waters says the criticisms missed the point.
It's not about whether or not this trafficking ring gave $50,000 or $50 million to the Contras. The main story is that there has been a connection made between the government, the CIA, and its involvement in drug trafficking to support the Contras. Can American citizens ever tolerate this kind of involvement or connection? We don't know how direct it was, whether or not they just kind of winked, blinked, turned their backs, but it needs to be known, and it seems to me that everybody would be interested in getting to the bottom of that.
I will get to the bottom of it, and I will let you know the results of what I found.
But if Friday's forum was any indication, members of this community have little faith in a CIA investigation.
This man coming into this community at this time, as far as we are concerned, most of us in this audience, is a mandate to close the investigation and to prepare us for him to say 6 months down the line that the CIA didn't do anything.
Audience members hurled a series of angry accusations during the fiery 90-minute meeting. One skeptical speaker after another used the microphone to voice anger and suspicion.
You know as well as everyone else that the CIA has been dealing drugs throughout the world and bringing drugs into this country since Vietnam's war. You brought them in here in body bags. You were in the Golden Triangle. So you're going to come in this community and insult us and tell us that you're going to investigate yourself? You got to be crazy.
Deutsch said repeatedly that any wrongdoers would be brought to justice. As he prepared to leave, he told an emotional audience he would take the charges seriously.
Thank you. Thank you for letting me come here today. You know, I've learned something. I've learned how important it is for our government and for our agency to get on top of this problem and stop it. I just want to say that I came today to try and describe the approach that I'm taking to address these serious charges. But I go away with a better appreciation of what's on your mind and I go away with a conviction that we're going to do more to stop drugs from coming into the United States. Thank you very much.
The forum broke up in distrust and chaos, just as it had begun. Meanwhile, members of California's congressional delegation say they will push hard for answers to a fundamental question. What did the government know about drug dealing?
Underscore the word accusations that are nothing short of explosive. They are that the CIA knowingly and intentionally did what amount to pump crack cocaine into Los Angeles to help fund rebels in Nicaragua. Whether or not these claims prove true, the anger they produced is very real.
American government.
The Justice Department and Congress are investigating. And so is CBS News. Here's what correspondent Bill Whitaker can report to you tonight.
The decade-and-a-half crack epidemic has exacted a ruinous toll.
It breaks my heart.
For 10 years, Eloise Dangerfield has been rescuing the littlest victims, crack babies, from the death grip in which the drug has ensnared much of South Central Los Angeles.
We see a lot of our children being neglected and they're abandoned, and all of this is behind crack.
Along with crack came the thud of police truncheons, a boom in drug arrests and homicides.
Read it, but you can't just keep it to yourself.
So when LA's black citizens heard of the San Jose Mercury News reports claiming CIA-backed Contras opened the first pipeline for Colombian cocaine to their communities, their first reaction, shock. Their second, anger.
You want to know why black people don't believe in the government? Because we know what the government is capable of.
My God, my God. What's next?
Facing life in prison, LA's biggest crack dealer now is saying he was a pawn in a CIA plot. And his argument was convincing enough that a federal judge postponed sentencing to consider evidence that his main supplier was an agency operative.
You know, his whole intentions was for me to make more money. The more money I made, the more money he made, and I guess the more money that he would have to help sponsor the war.
There is no evidence directly linking the CIA to the drug sales, and the CIA says its own internal investigation has found no connection. Yet here at ground zero of the crack explosion, the story simply won't go away, and new circumstantial evidence raises new questions.
It's basically immoral. I mean, someone...
Prominent LA attorney Harlan Braun insists there is strong evidence of a CIA drug connection. Braun is no radical. In fact, he represented one of the LAPD officers in the Rodney King case. Earlier, he handled a law enforcement corruption case and filed this motion. It details a 1986 house search in which deputies found a man who identified himself as a CIA agent and seized documents indicating drug money was being used to purchase military equipment for Central America. Braun says most of the evidence was seized later by federal agents, the rest currently under court seal. Braun wants it released.
And someone in Washington made a decision that they were going to deal in drugs or ignore the Contras dealing in drugs, which basically assisting them, because it was too important to defeat the Sandinistas in Nicaragua.
Eloise Dangerfield says it's all too horrible to contemplate.
We want to know, but I don't think we really want to know.
Knowing might ease the pain, she says, but it won't end the suffering. In Los Angeles, this is Bill Whitaker for Eye on America.
All of this comes as the director of the CIA was in Los Angeles today, trying to put down reports that the CIA in the past connived to spread crack cocaine in America's inner cities. Jerry Bowen has our report about that.
It was an extraordinary sight today. CIA Director John Deutsch on a high school stage defending America's spy agency against reports it sold crack cocaine in LA's black neighborhoods to fund the Contras.
Up till the present, I have no evidence of a conspiracy of the CIA to be involved in drug trafficking. But I'm keeping...
You see how he's wording it? Cold cover-up. One of the biggest conspiracies ever, and it was on our backs. Look, man, salute to y'all, man. Appreciate that. We need to formulate a sovereign nation. We need to open up our own black-owned bank. We could start with $1 billion, bro. The biggest black-owned bank in the United States right now Broadway Financial only has $1 billion in assets. Oprah has more money than him. Well, we could govern our own economic, we want to be recognized as a sovereign nation who could govern similar to what the Indians have here, Native American, right? Well, we have our land, we have our sovereignty, and our beliefs, you know what I'm saying? And we have to be recognized by at least one other country in the world body. They have to recognize us. The Moors were the first to recognize the United States as a sovereign, right? So we have to be recognized by another nation, and we need to sue as that sovereign nation and separate ourselves from the United States of America, Inc., and hold them accountable. This is Deuce Sims, the Don. Wanted to change it up and get y'all to thinking on where we at now and prepare ourselves, because it's only going to get worse. You see what they did there? This is what they think about you. In the words of the great Don Mega.